All right, we should be live. And today we are going over calculation. So, guys, get ready. We're going to make you work. It's going to be tough. Make sure you have your caffeine, you're well rested, because we're going to go over some calculation puzzles. It's not going to be your typical, let's just sit back, watch Matt talk about middle games and pawn structures, blah, blah, blah. We're going to have to calculate today. And hopefully your brains will be hurting by the end of today's lecture. So it looks like we ran a little poll and 79% of you guys are regulars, 75%, 25% are new. So we're going to follow the similar format that we do for all the ChessGoals live classes. So first, let's just start off by having everyone introduce themselves. You can say your name or where you're from. Go ahead and put that in the chat. And we're going to keep it very interactive in the chat. So hopefully it'll feel kind of close to an in-person lecture, even though we're doing this over YouTube. Yeah, and Sharon is saying, get your coffee refill while you can. Put what you're drinking in the chat too, if you have a beverage with you. So I have a tumbler that's about 1/3 coffee and 2/3 water because I'm a weirdo, but it's good. It's good for hydration and good for energy. Okay, let's see where we're getting in the chat. We got Sean from Chicago, Ian from Cayman Islands, Titus from Finland, Peter, Las Vegas, Sharon, San Jose, John from Pennsylvania, Brock from Wisconsin, Ethan from Rochester, Minnesota, formerly the #1 city in the US, I think, based on some random magazine rankings. Claude from Quebec City. Oh, Larry from Orinoco. Oh, Orinoco, Minnesota, Larry. I think I might know who you are. Dave from Houston, Tommy from New York, Thomas from Germany, Dave drinking coffee, Ethan coffee, Sharon coffee, Carlos from Brazil again here. Oh, we got Sprite. John's drinking a Sprite. Tea with milk. Matt from Maryland and drinking tea. Caribou medium roast, no sugar or cream, cold coffee. Also diluted. All right, Dave. Smithy Q, cup of green tea. Peter said froze. Hopefully it's not the stream freezing. Orinoco. That's right. Hey, Dennis is here from Rochester as well. So a couple people from Rochester. India, Copenhagen, drinking coffee. All right. I think we need a coffee sponsorship. Maybe that would be a cool idea. All right, so we're going to do a few little intro slides, primarily for the 26% of you that are new to a live class. Hey, Michael from San Francisco. All right, so welcome to ChessGoals. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Matt. I started chess when I was 5 years old, and I began coaching around age 10. And I think my chess prime was in high school, 3-time Minnesota high school champion, either clear first or tied for first. Currently, I work in statistics for my day job, and I became a national master at the age of 29. And if you're wondering how old I am now, my birthday's coming up this week. I will be 38. So, man, been national master for a little bit now. And then about ChessGoals. So ChessGoals started around 2018 with a survey that asked chess players how they study. So we broke down every single possible category on how people study, how often they play games over the board, online, study strategy, study tactics. So they had to estimate how many hours, even fractions of an hour, that they spent each week on all of these things. And then I was able to map that to how much they improved in the last 12 months. So we asked the start rating and end rating. And I also asked some other questions like the players' ages. That survey data was really fascinating to me because I love stats and I love chess. Combining the two, that's essentially what ChessGoals is. Like we try to combine data and learning all in one package. I was able to create study plans based on that data and give recommendations for what I thought were the best ways to improve based on the data. Now, it is survey data. So if you're a statistician or if you're into statistics, you know there are some biases there potentially on who decides to take the survey. But it's really the best data I've seen out there to actually track how people improve. And the way people submit their data, it's not public. So no one can actually go look and see how many hours a week did Smithy Q study to gain his last 30 points, right? Because we all know Smithy Q studies a lot. And he might be embarrassed by that. So we have study plans based on rating categories, 6 different levels. And if you haven't seen that, it's called the ChessGoals Blueprint. There's a link in the description. And that's a free course, and it gives you day by day tasks on what to do based on your rating level. And you can just go through and check them off, and it's 12 weeks of tasks. So then all you have to do is focus on the study, but the study plan will tell you exactly what to study. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of it. Now ChessGoals has over 3,000 students in our course player website. That's courses.chessgoals.com. We have 17 courses currently. We have support, people helping out every single day. I'm teasing Smithy Q, but he's like the biggest helper in our ChessGoals Discord. He's awesome. And our goal at ChessGoals is to help you guys improve. So why start ChessGoals? I wanted to help as many students as possible. So instead of doing one-on-one lessons, which I was doing for quite a while, this is a way to try to broaden the reach of just being able to share chess knowledge. ChessGoals is big on efficiency, so that just keeps you focused on your goals. So you can just put your head down, focus, and get your work done, and hopefully reach the goals that you set out for yourselves. Analytics, we use data whenever possible to drive decisions at ChessGoals. And guidance, we want to have a community and coaches that help you out. I'm really big on that. A lot of people don't want to have an individual coach, and I think that's perfectly fine. And you can, do very well without having a private coach. But if you want to have a private coach, I think of that as sort of like icing on the cake, right? You can do most of the stuff on your own as long as you have a system and you're constantly trying to work on your takeaways from your previous games, finding your own strengths and weaknesses, tweaking things. I think you can go a very long way just working on your own self-study. But having a community helps quite a bit without needing that one-on-one coach, which for a lot of people, I think cost is what holds them back from having a coach. All right, so today's agenda. We got the introductions done. Meet Matt and what is ChessGoals. We got that done. So now we're going to dive into the calculation interactive lesson. And then at the end, we're going to have a special offer that we've been doing at the end of all of our live streams. So that's an offer on our courses. And if you didn't sign up for this course via the Google form, there is a link in the description. If you want emails on all of the future live courses and summaries after the courses, make sure to fill out that Google form in the description. But if you already filled it out, you'll get the emails. Then we'll also do kind of a Q&A at the end. All right, so let's see anything in the chat. Couple happy birthdays. Thanks, guys. All right. So now we will switch to calculation overview. Okay, so what is calculation? It's the process of systematically evaluating potential moves and their consequences, including envisioning future positions to make the most advantageous decision. It's a very long-winded way of saying calculation is essentially a much more advanced version of tactics. When you calculate, you really have to concentrate. And I think this is one of the big differences in terms of how it feels to calculate a position versus looking for tactics, right? So think of doing Tactics Trainer or Puzzle Rush. When you do Puzzle Rush, you're instantly trying to find moves. You're using your intuition. And sometimes you have to spend 30 seconds or a minute, but I don't really consider that hard calculation. But there is a gray area, right, where you kind of go from quick tactics into I had to calculate a little bit, but then there's, real classical chess calculation where you might spend somewhere between 3 minutes and 30 minutes on one single position. So that's really what I think of when I think of calculation. And here's kind of a comparison between the two. Tactics are specific moves or sequences that achieve immediate goals, And oftentimes they'll just they will exploit an opponent's mistake immediately, right? So your opponent just makes some move and you're like, oh, that looks fishy. You know your tactical radar is going off. You look at the board quickly and you might very, easily spot the tactic. Like, okay, there's this smothered mate idea, or I can just do a discovered check or fork a piece. Boom, there's the tactic. Calculation, though, that goes deeper, and it tends to require comparison skills, meaning you have to go down different branches of the tree. So you think, I do this move, they do this move, I do this move, and so on. That's calculation. All right, and today I'm using this book as sort of my guide for quite a few of the positions. I really enjoy this book. It's Grandmaster Preparation. The author is Jacob Agard. It's a very difficult book, though. So I don't recommend that you necessarily just run out and pick this up right away. I think it's geared towards players over 2,000 rating for the most part. But there is also the Yusupov series. That's 9 different books, plus I think he had added a 10th kind of review book. And one cool thing with the Yusupov series is he bases his books on what he thinks you need to learn at each level. So there's 9 different levels. In my opinion, they start at around 1,100 and go to about 2,000. So each book is approximately 100 points. The calculation chapters in the books don't start until like book 5. And then I think after book 5, each of the books has at least one chapter on calculation. So that kind of tells you something about what a legendary coach, Yusupov, thought about when do you need to learn calculation. And in his first 4 or 5 books, it's very big on quick tactics, shorter checkmates and things. So really, if your rating is, let's say, 1,000, it's good to start to think about calculation techniques. But the higher level calculation stuff that we're about to talk about in this overview won't be important until a little later on in your chess progress. So these are the first 6 calculation techniques mentioned by the book. And I do think that these sort of go in order in terms of when you should know them on your chess journey. So the first one is candidate moves. Candidate moves are sort of the width of your search. So you have one move that you really want to play. You could calculate that and see, hey, it doesn't seem like a great position. Well, now what do? You have to look for a second move. So having multiple options on move 1 is sort of the basis of having candidate moves. You want to have a wide tree, but you also want to have a deep tree. And that comes into number 2 here, combinational vision. That's being able to look deep and look for combinations of moves and go deep down these paths. So if you can combine a wide search with a deep search, then you're going to be a really tough player to play against when it comes to complex positions. Now, for myself, one of my takeaways is number 1 on this list, candidate moves. Because a lot of times when I miss an important move, it's either my very first move that I missed, like I just didn't consider or give any credit to the best move in the position, or I missed the strongest reply for my opponent, which is really only the second node in the branch, right? You think of your move, you should still be thinking of 3, 4, maybe 5 moves for your opponent, depending on the position. That's one of my takeaways. So you guys can think about that in your own progress too. Am I stronger at looking deep? Am I stronger at looking wide? And then try to think about that when you get in complex positions. Like, okay, I tend to just go way too narrow down the line, but I don't look at multiple moves on move 1 or 2. If you know that in advance, you can improve that in your future games. Number 3 is prophylaxis. This is a little bit more advanced. So this is looking at what your opponent is trying to do and not just a one-move threat, right? So we're all kind of taught, look for one-move threats early on in our chess careers. Or before you make a move, just check quickly that they don't have a super strong reply, that you're not blundering. Prophylaxis is usually a little deeper than that. It's thinking, what is my opponent's long-term plan? And how do I factor that into my calculation search? Can I somehow slow down what they're doing or stop what they're doing while I'm doing my own plans? And then number 4 is comparison. This is looking at two very similar lines, but there might be just a small nuance that makes a massive difference. And then number 5 is elimination. That's pretty much how it sounds, where you just go through a process of elimination and you figure out this line is bad, this line is bad, this line is bad. Then the last line you check, or maybe it's one of the lines in the middle. That's the only good one because every other line got eliminated for some reason. Number 6 is intermediate moves. That's inserting moves in between that aren't easy to find. And then the book does include 2 more, but in my opinion, they're kind of way out there, so I didn't even list them here. All right, so any questions before we jump into the first position? I'll pay attention to the chat here. Oh, I see there's a question on the full bundle Yogesh is mentioning. Can you send me an email about that, Yogesh, and I'll get back to you? Sean is saying Yusupov is great. Read the first 3. That was enough for me. Yeah, they're really tough books, Sean. They make you work. That's for sure. All right, I'm just paying attention to the chat for a second. See if there's any questions. We're going to end this poll. Looks like we have 31% of viewers are new. 69% are regulars. So I'll just mention one more time. If you didn't sign up on the Google form, link in the description, paste your email in there, and you'll get emails about all of our live classes. And I think what we'll continue to do is we'll run polls on YouTube for what live classes you guys want to see next. I think that's kind of a cool way to keep the classes fresh and get your opinions. So you can always email me or message me too if you have a certain topic you want to go over and you would like to make sure that it's on my list for the poll. All right, let's jump into the first position. We're going over candidate moves. So right here, white just played rook to c1. So now it's black to move. And if you look at the material, white has 1 extra piece. There's this extra knight on h4. In return for that, we do have 1 extra pawn. And our pawn is only 1 square from promotion. So what I want you guys to do here is list your candidate moves in the chat. So you don't analyze them right now. There's no wrong answer. Just list all the first moves that you would consider and maybe put them in order. So what's your first move, second move, third move? What are your candidate moves here? Okay, I'm seeing rook e2, g5, rook e1, rook e1, rook e2. It's interesting, no one has listed more than 1 move yet. Because candidate moves, there's a couple ways to think about a position. You can either look at 1 move at a time. So if you have a lot of time on your clock, you could look at 1 move very deeply and then go to move 2 and go very deeply. But you could also do a quick glance at 3 or 4 moves first and then decide which one looks the most interesting and go deeper. Okay, this is great. So it looks like pretty much we have 3 options. Rook e2, rook e1, and moving the g pawn. Yep, so we got a couple g5s. I was wondering, Matt, if you meant g5 or g6. Then we also have an idea from Sean moving the rook to d8, followed by rook to d1. Okay, good. Very good. So let's start with what I would say is the most obvious move in the position. We see that white wants to just grab this pawn. Let's look at rook to e2. The idea here is we would like to play rook to b8, followed by rook to b1. But let me know in the chat, what should white play here? And actually, I'm going to make you guys work a little bit harder. We're going back to this position. Visualize rook e2 and tell me what should white play here. Put your answer is in the chat. There's 1 winning move for white. Other moves are close to equal. So Thomas is saying king f1. Multiple king f1s. Dave says knight f3. Jan says rook b1. Jan says rook b1 again. John, knight f3. Sharon, knight f3. King f1, knight f3. Okay, good. So let's look at both of these. Rook e2. King f1. Rook d2. Now, we need a move for white because there's this massive threat. And I think the kind of obvious looking move is king e1. Yep, this is what Thomas is saying in the chat. There's one problem though with king e1. Rook a to d8. And now white cannot stop this idea of rook d1 check. So the best move for white is to sacrifice the rook. Black takes back. And now the fact that black is up the exchange, rook for knight, and has this passed c-pawn, this will be winning for black. So king f1, back in this position, rook d2 is a draw, but there's only one move. It's rook e7. Really strange looking, because if the rook comes here, now this king can step out. There's no check, and this rook could always come back and help, and white's still up the knight. So going back to the original position, rook e2, there's a winning move for white though. Knight f3. That's the only winning move. Okay, so what's the idea? Let's say we go rook b8. We want to just sink our rook down here. Now there's king f1, and this rook cannot keep the pawn defended. So a sneaky move order there. You start with the knight f3 and then go king f1. Because if you were to move the knight second, say here, here, and the knight, well, now there's rook d1 check, and white loses. So knight f3, only winning move after rook e2. So that means, as black here, we cannot play rook e2. We have to rule that one out. Knight f3 is going to be winning. So let's look at g5 next. What happens after g5? There is rook takes c2 if white wants this. And after pawn takes knight, rook f5, and the computer says white is winning here. +4 advantage. I think we could rule out g5 just on the fact that white's going to win this pawn. This pawn is probably also going to drop. And our king's out in the open, and white still has extra pawns. That leaves us with the crazy looking move, rook e1 check. This is the solution. And after rook takes e1, what move do we play here? Put your answers in the chat. We'll go back to this position. So rook e1, rook takes e1. What move do you play next? Yep, you got it, Sean. Cody, that's right. Rook d8. Yep, you got it. Rook d8. Everyone's getting it. Awesome. So now, after rook d8, there's this big threat of rook d1. So let's say king g2, rook d1. White can play rook e6 check here. Take the pawn. And the amazing thing is after c1 queen, you would think, oh, black is winning here. They got the queen. This position is actually equal, according to the computer. So white's king is pretty solid. This king is out in the middle. And we're not going to go deeper on this position, but it is 0.00. So it's dead equal. So this was kind of a nice example of going through different candidate moves, right? We had to look through multiple options to find rook e1. It's not the obvious move. Definitely not the obvious move. And these other moves look very natural. g5, rook e2. I think you have to look at those first. Like I would say rook e2, option 1, g5, option 2, and then come around to looking at some of the crazier ideas like rook e1. Because as we know with tactics, you always want to look at checks and captures first. And SpinDQ just talked about this in the video that he did on our YouTube channel for calculation. You want to look at checks and captures early on, even if they seem crazy. So we have to consider rook e1 check, even though it just looks like we're giving up a rook. So Chess Simple is saying, fun fact, Hans Tikkinen says his last name means woodpecker and hence the origin of the name for the woodpecker method. Yeah, that's right. Wayward Chess, how are you doing? Let's go to position number 2. I like this one a lot. This is black to move. Oh, Michael has a question. Let me go back real quick. He's asking, could we play rook to b8 right away? Or move to rook to b8. Okay, so rook e1 check, take, rook b8. Great question, Michael. I'm looking at the computer. It's saying we can go rook e7 for white. And after the rook comes here, rook e2. And even though you can get the queen after takes, white is still up the piece. And it's saying like a 4.5 point eval. So it looks like white is still winning. Okay, Thomas has a question too. So we're not going on to the next one quite yet. Rook e2, Thomas is saying, knight f3, rook b8, king f1. Is rook b1 winning here? Great question, Thomas. There's only one winning move for white. It's king takes rook, and after rook takes rook, king d2, and now the king attacks both of these pieces, meaning the rook has to move somewhere, and white's able to grab this pawn, and they're still up the knight. It's a pretty complicated position, all based around the tactics of having that pawn one square from queening. All right, position 2. Black to move. List your candidate moves in the chat. This white king is in some obvious danger. Your tactical radar should be going off. This should tell you I have to look deep here. There's stuff going on. Sean saying knight f3 for one of his candidate moves. Feel free to list multiple moves. Queen f3, knight f3, queen f3. Knight f3 and knight f5, bishop f3, knight f3, bishop g2, e5, queen f3, queen f3, queen f3. A lot of queen f3s. You guys have had your coffee this morning. Okay, let's start with knight f3. So I think this is kind of the natural move. We throw a check in. We're not offering up our queen right away. After knight f3, there's one move for white. It's bishop takes f3. This one should be pretty obvious. White doesn't want to walk into these discovered attacks. So for example, if king g2, knight e1 check picks up the queen, knight takes d4 check, picks up the rook, and the queen can block, and then picks up the queen. So you don't want to walk into that. After bishop takes, queen takes, there's one move that saves white. Pawn to e4, blocking the bishop along this diagonal so that there's no queen to g2 checkmate. And this position is equal according to the computer. So knight f3 is equal with best play. Let's look at queen f3. That's the second move people are recommending. So without moving the pieces, give me some long lines in the chat. Queen f3, bishop takes f3, then what? Because queen f3 threatens mate on g2 and mate on h1. But what if the bishop takes? So give me the line all the way out through checkmate in the chat. Let's see who can get it. Queen f3 is the move. You got to go even deeper, Sean. Bishop takes f3, knight takes bishop. Move the white king somewhere. Probably king g2. Queen f3, bishop takes, knight takes, king g2, knight takes d4 from Cody, which is a check and hitting the queen. Sean's saying after king h1, you go knight e1, discovered check, hitting the queen. Thomas is saying it won't be mate. All right, so let's look at this. Queen f3. You guys are on the right track. Bishop takes f3. Knight takes f3. It looks like it's close to a mate. If that knight were able to jump over to h3, it'd be mate. But white never has to allow the mate. So let's say king g2. Now you have two perfectly good options, and they're actually about the same in terms of eval. You can go knight e1 check or knight takes d4. They're both good. This king has to move. It's a double check in this case. Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't realize this at first. Knight takes c2 is a -2 eval. The best move here is to repeat and then take the rook. So I misspoke. We actually, in this position, we want to take the rook. This is -6. This is -2. So we want to grab the rook. And then after the queen blocks, we take the queen, knight takes, and then move this knight out of the way. So in this line, we're up 5 points. We're up a rook. But in the other line, if we go knight e1 check, take the queen, rook d2. Now if you look at the material, we're only up 1 bishop. And this knight doesn't have a way out. So you actually have to sack the knight if you go deeper. And now we're only +1 on material. Bishop a6 is best. So it's a -2 eval, but we're only up 1 point of material. The other line, we're up a rook. And good question from Ethan. He's wondering, can the knight block? So that's in this line. I think. Knight here. Can the knight block? We are still able to win the queen. Yeah, you guys had this position down. That was really good. Okay, let's go to the next section. Combinational vision. So we are going deeper now. This one is black to move. So instead of listing your candidate moves, tell me what the best move is, but go a couple moves deep just so that we know you understand the idea behind the move. We're focusing on going a little bit deeper here. And this is one where there's not one move that's way stronger than the rest, but there's one idea here that I think makes the position a lot simpler than the other options, and it is still the stockfish top move. So we're going deeper here, not wide. Thomas is saying rook c2, followed by bishop takes e4. So he wants takes, takes, take. And if takes, bishop h2. Everyone's thinking right now. Sipping their coffee. Sean says rook takes bishop, queen takes rook, bishop takes e4. So that's the same line. With a pin. Yeah, and this would technically be a skewer, because the more valuable piece is in front of the less valuable piece. Yeah, we said it at the same time. Okay, you guys are right. This is the answer. Rook takes c2. So if you play, let's say, a quiet move, like queen c7, this is still good for black. You can open up the position. After takes, you could take back. Black has a comfortable advantage, somewhere around half a pawn. But this move, rook takes c2 on move number 1, super strong. It's over a 1 pawn advantage, and I think in terms of practical play, this is the best way to go. Because after queen takes, now you go bishop takes e4. And notice how strong these two bishops are, and the queen is skewered to the rook. The best move is actually queen a2, and black doesn't even have to take this right away. You could play a move like queen a8 first. That rook is completely trapped. White's only up 1 point of material, so we can always gain 2 points of material back. And this is a 1.5 to 2 point advantage for black. And I should note, after bishop takes e4, you cannot grab the bishop because bishop h2 check, followed by rook takes queen. So this is one where you have to go deep to spot all of the tactics, but if you find that, that makes converting this advantage quite a bit easier than if you play a move like queen c7, or third best move is pawn d5 here. But you want to look for those combinations to try to convert your advantages. All right, now we're going to the first example from one of my games. We are playing white here. This was a crazy game with a lot of tactics leading to this position, but from here, we have to be precise. There is more than one winning move, but I think total there's only 3 moves that are winning here. And if you don't find the winning move and you let black castle, for example, then the position's close to equal all of a sudden. So put your lines in the chat. Go deep again, because we're going combinational vision. We're going deep in this chapter. This is chapter 2. So put your lines in the chat. Material count's equal. It's 1 knight for 3 pawns currently. I think Dennis and Ethan have both seen this position. The Rochester players in the chat. Jan is saying rook takes f3. I think that's probably rook takes f6. Sacrificing the exchange. Thomas says either knight to f5. Cody's saying that I gave a big hint. Black wants to castle, so queen d6 to prevent it. Sean says knight f5. Michael says the e knight to f5. Jan says yes, rook takes f3. Which I think means rook takes f6 again, Jan. Knight f5 also prevents castling due to a fork. So picture that, knight f5, castle, knight e7, the fork of king and queen. Yep, you got it, Jan. Sharon saying queen d6. Oh, Claude has a new idea, bishop to c6. Dave, knight e5. Oh, bishop c6 is very interesting. I didn't consider that. Wayward Chess just explained it in the chat. Knight takes e6. Okay, this is good. We have a lot of good suggestions here. Let's look at bishop c6 first. This is a cool move. If bishop takes c6 is played, this is a blunder by black. Because if knight takes c6, there's no castling here due to the fork. King, queen again. And if queen takes c6, now there's queen b8 check, picking up the rook in the corner. But it looks like after bishop c6, black can castle here, and the eval's around +1. So this might not be enough to secure the win. There are a couple of moves that are stronger. Bishop c6, I like that idea. I think it's a cool tactic, and it's definitely one we need to look at. Let's now look at knight d to f5. So this is what I played in the game. And either knight can go to f5 and it'll transpose. So if you said either knight to f5, those are correct answers. And the other correct answer was knight takes e6, which we'll look at right after this. So now the problem is knight to d6 check is a fork of king and queen. If the queen takes the rook, now knight takes g7 check prevents castling, which Sean mentioned in the chat. This knight is about to drop because the rook also backs up the queen. So now white's up material, and this position is actually going to be a mate in 7 moves with best play. If the king goes to f8, there's queen takes f7 check. And if the king runs out, now there's knight here check. This king is on the run. Rook c1. King moves again. Knight d6. King moves again. The rook drops. King moves again. Check. King moves again. Check. Block. Mate. And you don't have to see all of that, because once you realize in this position that the king is on the run, it's very easy to just kind of intuitively know that black is not surviving this. And then back to this position. In the game, my opponent played queen to d8, trying to hold everything. Here there's knight takes g7 check. If the king moves up, there's mate in 1. And after king f8, the strongest move now is knight to h5. Triple attack on that knight. The knight is already pinned down to the rook. And in this position, my opponent resigned. Because after, let's say here, take, king moves, rook takes f7 is the cleanest, picking up the queen. It's a full queen up for white. And let's look at this other move, knight takes e6. So this was suggested by somebody in the chat, Carlos. Knight takes e6 right here. This is a cool idea. After bishop takes e6, you can now play knight to f5. And you have kind of the same threats, but you removed the e pawn from black. And if f takes e6, knight f5, again, you sort of have the same threats, but now you remove the f pawn. So it's sort of like white didn't need both knights attacking there. I think it's a little bit stronger to put a knight on f5, but that's a cool idea, sacking the knight on e6. All right, any questions on that position before we go to the next one? We're going to prophylaxis next. Doesn't look like we have any questions. All right, prophylaxis. Here's the position. Black just played pawn to h6. We have white to move. And what we need to think about as we calculate, are there any tricks for black? Wayward chess in that last position, if pawn takes instead of bishop takes, it was the same idea, knight f5. The same tactics still work. So sort of like white had an extra knight that wasn't needed for the tactics. So put your answers in the chat. What do we think the best move for white is? You don't have to go as deep on this one. Just tell me what you think is best. And we're going to look at kind of a sneaky idea for black, and then we'll talk about how to prevent that. This pawn is 2 squares from queening. Material is completely equal. Eval is plus 5.5. So we just have to convert this win. And one thing I like to talk about a lot in terms of evaluating a position, not only do you think about who's better in a position, but you also want to think about risk and reward. Like, how easy is the position to play? What are the odds of each side making a mistake or a blunder? That's where prophylaxis comes into play. We want to reduce the chances that our opponent comes back. And sometimes we might make a move that's slightly inferior to the best move if we know that we're simplifying the position and increasing our odds to win the game. We're getting a lot of e7s. Knight h4, knight g5. I'm checking one thing in the book. Queen b8, rook e2. Okay, so let's first look at queen c7. Queen c7 is a strong move, and I want to show this one just to show you the idea that black has in mind. This knight on f3 is currently hanging. So let's say queen c7, bishop takes f3, and now we go e7, trying to promote. We're still winning here, but what if black plays king h7? What move do we play here? Put your answers in the chat. What move do we play here? Everyone's afraid to put an answer. They don't want to be tricked. It's a trick question. Chess simple, e8 equals knight. So there's a problem with promoting to queen, and I think that's why no one is saying make a queen. This looks like the obvious move. There's a problem with this, though. Rook to e4. Crazy resource. And after rook takes e4 by white, f takes e4. Let's say white plays queen b5. White has 2 queens against 1. But black can play a move like pawn to e3 here, and the best that white can do is perpetual check. White is about to get checkmated, even though white has an extra queen. The best move is queen takes g7, king takes, and then come in for the perpetual check. And black can't avoid all the checks here. So this is the idea. Black can allow white to make a queen in this type of position and play rook e4. So if we go back to the start position, pawn to e7, rook e4 can immediately be played. After rook takes e4, queen takes e4, there's no way to queen this pawn safely because the black queen, not our queen, the black queen is guarded by the f-pawn. So if we make a queen, the bishop can take. All right, so what do we do against this idea of black allowing us to queen? What do we do for the first move? We want to improve on this a little bit. Yeah, Deepam is saying insane. I agree. Crazy resource. Dave says queen to b8 check. That's right. So this is pretty deep. We can play queen to b8 check. King steps out. And now there's one critical move here. There's only one winning move in this position. What do we do here? One winning move. Queen e5, knight g5, knight e5. Knight e5 is equal. I'm not sure the eval in queen e5, but it's not one of the top 3. No one has said it yet. You can throw out a random guess even. Throw out a candidate move. What does white need to do here? Knight h3, or maybe that's knight h4. Not knight h4. Not king g2, not h3. Not queen h8. Not queen takes b6. This just shows how complicated this position is. It's plus 5.5. We got the first move right. We're struggling on move 2. Not e7, not queen f8. Not queen h8. I do like queen sacrifices, but it's not queen h8. There's probably one person in the chat right now that's plugging this into their stockfish. Not queen e5, Dave. Not queen c7, not h4, not knight e5. e7, nope. Not queen c7. Not queen d6. This is insane. I've never seen a position like this. We can't solve it. I don't think I would have, yeah, I know I wouldn't have spotted this either. It's only because I know the answer. Not h3, not queen f4. I'll give you a hint. It's a queen move. No one has said it yet. There's one winning move. No one has said it still. Come on, guys. Queen move. I'm still not seeing it. It's not queen f8, not queen e5, not queen e8, not take b6, not queen a7. Not queen e8. If I give another hint, it'll give away the answer, I think. And this is why prophylaxis is so difficult. Okay, no one has said it still. There we go, wayward chess. Winner. Queen c8. Queen c8. It's the only winning move. Why is this a winning move? The queen needs to guard this pawn on f5. So let's say bishop takes f3, e7, rook e4, queen takes f5 check. That's why. How insane is that? Now when the king moves back somewhere, we make a queen. It's guarded by our rook. So this is prophylaxis. Okay, wait, Sean is saying queen f8 should have worked. I do have the engine on, so I'm cheating. Queen f8, bishop takes f3, e7. Okay, Sean, that's a really good point. There is a difference in this position. There's a bishop c6 move by black. Queen guards f5 still. And if we promote, bishop takes, rook takes, queen takes b3, this position is equal. So that's a good try, Sean. And it's really difficult to see all that. But that was the idea. Keep the queen on the f-pawn, and queen c8 was needed instead of queen f8. Yeah, 50% credit for sure. The other move you could play here instead of queen c7, let me look at the notes. Queen d6 was also good. Right here, queen d6. And the line given by the book is take, e7, king h7. And now you can go e8 queen. If rook e4, because the queen is on d6, and this queen guards g6, you have a checkmate. So the underlying point here is we needed to just watch for these resources by black. We knew we were winning. Even if you didn't have the engine in front of you, you knew that white should be winning here. You just had to be aware of this whole rook e4 idea. This was the main tactic that black had in the position. Dennis is saying, wow, yeah, I agree. I don't think I've ever seen a position like that where it was so hard to figure out. All right, now let's go to... You guys want to do one more prophylaxis position, or do you want to jump to comparison? Let me know in the chat. One more prophylaxis or jump to comparison? Because we have two comparison positions to look at. One more comparison. It's a 50-50 tie. One more. Okay, one more. One more. This one is black to move. White just moved their knight to b6. So let's take a minute here. Think about the options, and then when you have your move, type it in the chat. This is Peter Hein Nelson with the black pieces, Husseinov with the white pieces. Wayward Chess said one less. I like that. We would like to go back in time and delete that last prophylaxis puzzle. I like that a lot. Should delete that one from the recap, just to keep audience retention high. Cody is saying picking up the rook is probably too easy. Followed up by, oh yeah, the knight, LOL. That's right. Well, we got to look at it. Got to look at the checks and captures, and this is both a check and a capture, Cody. So good move to look at. Wayward Chess is saying castle. With extreme confidence, Wayward Chess is all caps, 3 exclams. They solved the last puzzle, and now they think every move deserves all caps, 3 exclams. Just giving you a hard time, Wayward Chess. When in doubt, just castle. That is true. Bishop takes h3. Okay. Maybe one thing we should discuss here while we're thinking of moves, what is white trying to do? Because we are thinking in terms of prophylaxis on this puzzle. Wayward Chess knows the answer, but they're just going to let everyone else think about it. Okay, while you guys are thinking, we'll put the dog cam in view. There we go. Memphis sleeping in the background on his donut-shaped bed. We got to think about what is the plan for white. Bishop g4, Wayward Chess is saying. Ethan says, hi, Memphis. Thomas has a heart emoji. Yeah, I love dogs too. Bishop takes h3. Oh, I didn't see this in the chat before, so Divyansh says knight to a5. Did you get him to sign a waiver to be on camera? Dog emoji, pets, dog, and castles. So the threat by white can be shown after castle. If we castle here, and I think this is, one of the most logical moves. We should look at moves like queen takes a1, look for checks, look for captures. But you can pretty quickly rule out a lot of the captures here. Everything's defended. If we castle, there's this move knight to a4. Our queen is trapped. Our best move here is to play queen takes rook in the corner, knight takes back, and even though the material count here is equal, computer's saying about 1.5 points for white. So now that we know knight a4 is the idea, what do we want to play here? And this is another hard one. No one has guessed the answer yet for black. Yeah, it does hang the rook after castle. But in this position, surprisingly, black has a big advantage still. There are some ways to keep the initiative. Okay, so a couple people have said queen c3. Rook b8. This is a hard one. Throughout some different candidate moves, what else haven't we talked about or seen in the chat? Because if you look at the eval right now, or the material count, I should say, sorry, we are +4. Our rook in the corner is hanging, but this white king is in some danger. More danger than our king, you could argue. There's no rook e1 because our bishop just takes it. Wow, Rochester chess. Both Dennis and Ethan from Rochester said the answer. And then Ian also said it. Pawn to d3. By far the best move. This is 4.8 eval. The next best move was 1 point something. Pawn to d3 allows the queen to escape through the diagonal. So there's really not a good move for white here. I think one question that you might have is, could white simply grab the rook? The best move for black is to castle. And the problem for white is this king is so exposed and they're only up 1 point of material. This knight is loose. These pawns are about to open up. The top computer move is queen takes d3, which simply runs into rook d8 and the queen is pinned to the king. If a move like rook c1, now we can play d takes c2 and this knight might hang. If the queen takes, there's now rook to d8 check, knight d2. This queen can drop back. And this eval is -7. So it's one of those positions where you kind of want to build an intuition for this type of position again, where you know that white's up 1 point of material, but you can just sense that there are enough tactics here that white's not going to be able to survive. You hang or give up the rook in the corner, but you know your queen is free and you know this king is about to be opened up. So crazy position here. d3, only move that's winning, like that -4 eval. The next best move was bishop takes h3, which I think a few people did mention. But the problem is after rook takes h3, the rook attacks the bishop. So now d3 is not quite as strong because of rook takes bishop. This is still an advantage for black, but it's around a 1.5 eval. Wow, so prophylaxis, very difficult puzzles. Let's now go to comparison. And this is the last one we're going to look at in terms of themes. So if we kind of go back to this list of themes, we did candidate moves, combinational, vision, prophylaxis, and now we're going to look at 2 puzzles on comparison. We're not going to dive into 5 and 6 or 7 and 8 from the book. They get more complex, but if we end up doing more calculation classes down the line, if you guys want more calculation classes, we could go deeper on some of these more complex techniques, or we could focus more on some of these earlier ones and do more types of puzzles too. For now, we're going to comparison. And here's the puzzle. We have Paul Carries with the white pieces, Donald Byrne with the black pieces. A3 just played by black. Thanks, Michael, for coming. What we need to think about here are 3 different scenarios. If we play B takes A3, black plays B takes A3, what's going to happen is black will have a pawn on A2, and we will have no pawn on B2. So that's scenario 1. Black gets a pawn on A2, we have no pawn on B2. If we allow black to push, then black gets a pawn on A2, and we have a pawn on B2. And if black captures, they have a pawn on B2, and we have no pawn on the second rank. So those are the scenarios. Do we want the black pawn on B2, or do we want the black pawn on A2? And if that's the answer, do we want this pawn here or not? Now this sounds super complicated, but that's what we have to figure out. We need to compare these different options. And there's only one winning move here. So let me know in the chat, what do you guys think is the winning move? I see Wayward Chess, Rook H5. We will look at that, but that's not the answer. What is the winning move here? Wayward Chess doubles down. Rook H5 is the move for sure. I mean, you do have to look at Rook H5. I kind of led you guys down the path to finding the best move, talking about these pawns, but I think you got to look at moves like Rook H5 right away too. Sharon is saying Queen to C1. We do have to watch out because the Rook guards C1. Doff is saying Rook takes F7. We'll need to consider Knight takes back. I think King takes back. Black is probably close to getting mated. But yeah, you're right. There is Queen takes G7. We'll look at these too. We'll look at these. Thomas is saying B takes A3 followed by Knight F4. Okay, good. We're getting some good answers here. So let's first look at Rook H5. What if we go for this brute force checkmate? The best move for black is G takes H. And now there is Knight to F4 here. Pretty much equal. The best move is Queen G5 check. And going for perpetual. So we can get a perpetual check here. It is really scary for black, but with best play, black is holding. Rook takes F7. Knight takes is the only move. And after Queen takes G6, the king can tuck onto F8. And surprisingly, there's no move that can force a win for white. So if Rook F5, there's pawn to E6. And if Queen check, the king is going to run. And somehow black is better here. Because there's still 1 point of material and this A pawn is close to queening. The king is gaining safety as it runs away. So the answer is B takes A3. And we're going to look at why. Black plays B takes A3 back. Now there's 2 moves for white that are winning. But let's look at this first one. King to G2. Now if A2 is played, here's the key. You can actually play Knight to F4. And Thomas mentioned this in the chat. You can allow black to make this queen because of the G6 threat. And this is what, Thomas, this is very impressive. You said black shouldn't control the G6 pawn. There's Knight takes G6 here. This guards the rook and threatens checkmate. So if queen takes rook, for example, the knight takes back. This is a winning position for white. It's saying plus 36 in terms of material, or eval. So knight takes G6 is the idea. Maybe we should go a little deeper in this line. Take, take. Top move for black is rook C2. Now there's knight takes F7. It's just blowing open the black king side. If knight takes, this one looks pretty simple. Queen G6, king moves. Check. King goes back, grab the knight. Goes back, grab the rook. And he's almost mated. This is probably the easiest way. Boom, boom, mate. So this was the idea. We had to be ready to play knight to F4. Okay, let's go back to this position. So what happens if we just played, let's say, king G2 here? Now there's rook takes D5. Rook takes D5, and not A2, but taking here on B2. All right, so let's go down this same line. Knight F4. E1 queen. What just happened? The queen guards G6. This is the difference. One little difference. We're going through the exact same idea, but there's this one little difference. Now knight takes g6, queen takes g6, black is winning, even after rook g5. This queen can guard the other queen. So that was the difference, and you have to figure that out from this initial position. You have to figure out, like, okay, this is my idea. I want to go knight here, take this pawn right away. But I also need to get the king out of check. And I need to figure out, do I want this queen hitting a1 or hitting b1? This is comparison. I find these very difficult, similar to prophylaxis. And that's why when we go back to that list of themes for calculation, they are increasing in complexity. You know, a lot of times comparison, it's endgame puzzles where you have to go super deep in an endgame and there's one little difference. That's a segue into this game that I played. Here we go. Endgame position. I'm playing black. This came out of a Caro-Kann Panov. Prophylaxis is preventing your opponent's ideas, wayward chess. So this came out of a Caro-Kann Panov. My opponent was a USCF expert. And we had an equal position, like the whole opening, the whole middle game, and I was able to get this advantage in the endgame. So there's an advantage for black in this position. My idea, I thought this was winning no matter what. My idea was, okay, I just need to get the king in front of this pawn, win this pawn, start pushing the passed pawn up the board. Even if white wins one pawn in return, that e-pawn's just going to rush up the board, make a queen. Worst case scenario is a draw, but I was very confident I was winning here. But there are some minor differences. So put in the chat, what is the best move here for black? Prophylaxis is preventative medicine. DPOM, I'm not sure off the top of my head what the other move was. It might have been knight f4 right away. But I don't want to change the screen right now. Yeah, I'm seeing g3, e5, couple g3s. e5, then king e6. e5, rook d2. Looks like g3 has 2 votes, e5 has 3 votes. Rook d2 has 1. No one has said the move I played in the game, which is probably a good thing for you guys, because I gave up the advantage in one move. Rook d2, g3. All right, let's look at rook d2. So Matt's think alike. That was the move I played in the game, king e8. Let's look at rook e2. In this position, it's equal with best play. And the line that the computer gives is pawn to a5. And let's say we go here, rook to b6, trying to run this pawn. And after king e6, you can push. And the problem here is you can't grab the pawn because this one queens. So it's like this position where we're trying to slow down both pawns. And then the key is if white can grab this pawn back and hold the a pawn, now we're not winning. So this is 0.00. So we got to think about that. We don't want white to be able to hold one of the pawns and sacrifice for the other, right? And sacrifice this pawn to get one of ours. So the move I played in the game, king e8, my opponent played a5, king d7, and I thought here, I'm just going to take and my king can get back to this pawn. My opponent found a really nice move, rook a8. And after rook a4, he went a6, king takes d6, a7, king e5. And now there's a key move, and you guys mentioned this earlier, to play for black. If white goes g3 here, it's a draw. For example, pawn to f3, this rook can go to g8. We have to take, white takes, this pawn is going to drop. That's a problem. Rook coming over to f4. So how do we win this position? A few of you did mention it. Let's look at g3 first. This one's not the answer, but let's look at it quick. This one's equal. H takes g, f takes g, king f1. And in this position, if you play, for example, e5, there's rook check, and then rook g7. And if we grab this pawn, take, check, king moves somewhere. Grab this pawn. So this one will be a draw. Pretty complicated position. I mean, I definitely did not appreciate how complicated it was during the game. So the top move is pawn to e5, exclam. Now, after white plays pawn to a5, what do we do here? Put your answers in the chat. What do we do here? King e6, wayward Jess. Thomas is saying h5. Those are moves number 2 and 3, and they're both winning. But there's something even cleaner. More clear cut. g3. Titus, that's right. Pawn to e4. This is the fastest. And we're going to try to rush that pawn straight up the board. For example, king f1, e3. The king can't step up because there's just this simple check. And if white tries to get the a pawn rolling, we can check, and then play f3. And now white's in this nasty mating net. For example, takes, mate is threatened. And if you come back, rook takes h2, mate is threatened again. And these pawns are about to queen. They're way too strong. It's a mate in 12 with best play. Thanks, Wayward Chess. Thanks for watching. So this pawn to e5 is the answer. And let's say white plays d7. You can actually still push the pawn. The pawns are that strong. We don't care about rook takes h6. You go e3. So this is something that we talked about in the Endgame Live class, and we called it Passed Pawns Pose Problems. A passed pawn in the endgame is a massive asset to have, and you always want to look to push your passed pawns first. For whatever reason, I was so focused on just picking up this guy that I gave up the advantage, and the game didn't end up being a draw. But rushing this e-pawn up the board was a forced win for black, and really there wasn't even much that white could try to stop it. Another move to think about maybe is rook a7. This king can come up. This doesn't help because our king guards the pawn and the d pawn drops. And if white tries to push the a pawn, you can still go e4, or you can grab this pawn. Both are winning. It's kind of cool. And actually, okay, so do you guys want to go into the course promotion, or do you want to see one more position from this same game? If you're a Rochester viewer, you've probably seen this additional position. Let me know. Do you guys want one more position, or talk about the promotion? Chess demystified, one more position. Sharon, one more. One more. Okay. Okay. One more, please. One more. No one has said one less. Wayward Chess left, so no one's saying one less. Okay, so actually, let me just back up. I'll show you guys what happened here. Who would say no to more chess? Yeah, that's right. I played king e8, a5. I moved the king up. My opponent's playing this perfectly. There were multiple moves for white that held the draw, but he's playing it well. At this moment, he should go g3. That's the best move. If I take and take, the problem is this pawn is not going to be fast enough. The king's kind of in the way. It's clumsy. And this rook is always ready to check and then promote. So I'm kind of stuck here. Like if king e4, there's rook g8 winning this pawn with check, and then again, that h-pawn probably dies. So what he should have done is g3, and that's a hard move to see. But he played rook g8. I grabbed the pawn. He grabs this. So now I'm still thinking it's either win or draw territory, but I got to figure out, how do I get this e-pawn safely up the board? And I didn't want to lose the h-pawn and give him counterplay by pushing his new pass pawn up the board. So he goes rook g8, I push. Goes here, and I defend. And this was just to gain a little bit of time on the clock, repeat once. And then I moved my king up. So my idea is I wanted to play rook d6, king here, and then start pushing the pawn. But he gets behind my pawn, so now my king is kind of stuck. I can't move forward, so I check him. And move my king sideways. And this all felt good. Now, this is a critical moment. He's going after the h-pawn. So what I was thinking is, I would love to start pushing the f-pawn up the board. And after takes, king takes, or takes, pawn takes, it would be nice if his rook wasn't able to just check me all over the place from the 6th rank. So what I was thinking is, let's lure his rook up to the h4 square. Let's put that black pawn on h4. Make his rook take h4, and from there, these squares will be defended by my king. So I'm thinking, draw his rook to h4 and he won't have all the annoying checks coming along the files. So I play h5 here. This is a fine move. h4, still a good move. But what we're going to see is this ends up leading to a problem for me. Now in this position, I play f3. He takes. What do we play here? Put your answers in the chat. And this is another comparison exercise. There are 2 winning moves. Everything else is a draw. Put your answers in the chat. What do you play here? And actually, this is a prophylaxis puzzle too. Rook d1, king takes f3. Rook d1. King takes f3. King takes f3. You guys are good. Those are the 2 winning moves. Rook d1 and king takes f3. So I played rook d1. King h2. Now, from this position, give me your top move. So what do we play here? Thomas, e takes f3. This was the move I made a mistake. I went from a win to a draw in one move. Ethan saying king takes f3. Titus is saying check again. So check again. We still have to figure out how to make progress, because our rook was just on d2. So if we check again and the king goes back, we still have to find something different. Yeah, you're right. Check doesn't lose the game. That's right. So it's test-taking logic. You are not wrong, Titus. It's not a perpetual yet. You haven't lost the game. You haven't drawn the game. So really it's coming down to which capture do we want? King takes or e takes f3? Rook d2 check is a repetition. And rook d2 check is still winning because you can repeat it. Okay, so the answer is king takes f3. And it's still not easy, but what essentially happens is you get a Lucina position. And a Lucina is when you have rook, passed pawn, and king, and the opponent's king and rook aren't in front of the pawn. Like really that white king wants to be here to stop our pawn. It's going to be a Lucina position. And it's a crazy example of a Lucina position where this pawn can help us out in some lines compared to a standard Lucina. But now let's think about what does white do after the blunder, which is what I played in the game, e takes f3. What does white do here? Why is this a draw? Because it looks like a super easy win for black. And that's why I played this move. I thought this pawn's just going to promote. I was a little bit low on time, but we had a 30-second increment, and really I should have calculated this out. Mad rook, crazy rook. Rook f5. Stalemate ideas. Crazy rook situation. Yeah. Where does the term crazy rook come from, by the way? Suicide tower. Stalemate. Rook e5 check. Yeah. That's right. So rook e5 check. And this is a classic chess puzzle. And the tough thing is during the game, right before I played this, I saw the idea of the stalemate, but I thought my king could run to f1. So after check, king here, there's rook e2 check. This king has no squares, so if you take with pawn or take with king, it's still a draw. But for some reason, I thought king f1 got me out of the stalemate tricks, because if rook e1, I take with king. But what I didn't realize is that he has rook f2. And if I run away, he could play for the win, take f3, perfectly fine. But he could also play a move like king g1. So it doesn't really help to run away. Probably just rook takes f3. And if I run after the rook, it doesn't help. He can just keep checking. So wherever this king goes, the rook checks. And there's no way out. And this is one where you'll see it in like tactics puzzles. But to have it happen in a game is really rare. But it's a comparison exercise. I had to see the perpetual and realize that, okay, in this position, the only way to play for a win is to not give him that perpetual. The perpetual isn't too hard to see if you calculate it out. King takes is the win. Rook f5 check gets you this Lucina position. And rook takes pawn, I think, is a simpler version. And this one's cool because you can calculate this out fairly easily. If the rook sacrifices for the pawn, are we able to stop the white pawn? That's what you have to calculate. So for example, rook all the way down, e2, let's say check, king moves, check, king moves, king g3. Can we push this pawn and win? There's an easy way to figure this out. Because this king is only on the third rank, we're going to be able to cut the king off. So let's say queen, take, take. If this pawn pushes, rook to the fourth rank. And this is a good one to know. You can let that pawn go all the way to the sixth and then come down with the rook. So for example, here, here, and get behind it. And that king was cut off on the fourth rank. And if white moves the king first here, now we can cut off the king, this way. And if the king tries to move down, we can start to advance our king. But eventually what's going to happen is this king gets boxed out. The pawn's in the way. You go here, king f5, king moves, king f6. Notice what's happening. This king is getting stuck, and now it has to leave the defense of the pawn, and we simply take it. So if you kind of know these themes, rook against one pawn, you can figure out that calculation. Ethan saying Silman Chapter 3. Silman the Endgame course. So this was just a crazy game. A couple chances to get the win using calculation comparison techniques. All right, so let's now talk about the promotion quickly. Someone mentioned early on in this lecture that it's like the 1% club, people that come to the live classes. If you come to the live classes, we've been doing these course promotions at the end of each class. So it's something to keep in mind. Like if you want a course in the future, come to a live class because we do these promotions. So what we're doing for everyone who signed up for the class today, 50% off everything. What you do is you use the coupon code SNOW, S-N-O-W, up here in the yellow font, or yellow box, I should say. We have 12 current courses that have a retail price of over $750 if you add them all up. If you buy the best-selling product, which is our Lifetime Access Bundle, with this coupon code SNOW, it knocks the price from $449 down to $225, or $224.50 to be exact. You get all 12 of our video courses, plus access to every future video course that we ever come out with. So this is lifetime access. Right now, we have a Nimzo Indian course for Black coming out. Half the videos are recorded. The PGN text is completely done. That will be a multiple part series. It'll be Nimzo, Queen's Indian, and then other lines for Black. We have a beginner move-by-move course that I'm still working on the videos. Presta J, with a little bit of help from myself and a beginner David, put together all the text. And that's 30 beginner games, completely annotated move-by-move. It's similar to logical chess move-by-move, but it's based on actual beginner games, which I feel is more practical than looking at grandmaster games. So it kind of teaches you as a beginner how to work through and make progress, going from about 500 USCF to 800 USCF. So that's going to be a really good course, I think, for all players that kind of know the basics to chess but want to get to that next level. And I also have a G6 course coming out for Black. We have a G3 course coming out for White. And essentially, we're going to just keep making courses, and I want to make courses that you guys want to see as students. So there will hopefully be other courses on things like we talked about today. I want to do calculation, middle games, pawn structures, and then we'll roll these courses into our study plans. So you'll get a free study plan, but that'll start to recommend some of our different courses as options instead of just recommending books. So these are some of the courses that are currently out there and their prices. A lot of them are opening courses. We do have Caro-Kann middle game and tactics courses that complement the Caro-Kann course. And one thing to note about all of our opening courses is they're designed for club level players. So these aren't courses for grandmasters. Most of them have about 100 lines, and it shows common mistakes at the club level. So these aren't grandmaster courses that you'll see on some other websites where they have 500 lines, 1,000 lines. That's way too much theory to know. And for you guys to improve your chess, I don't think you should spend that much time on openings. At least that's what the data has shown. You want to spend more time on other aspects of your game. So you pick a couple openings, get them down. You can switch openings, add multiple openings later, but you also want to play a lot of games, analyze those games, create your own takeaways. So we're going to have more non-opening courses coming out. Here's some commonly asked questions with our courses. you do get the PGN download. This is huge, guys. You can download the PGN. You can open it up in a program like ChessBase. You can upload it to chess.com. You can upload it to Lichess. You can upload it to Chessable and train our opening courses on Chessable. And we give you instructions on how to do all that. So not a lot of video courses out there let you just download the PGN. We do let you download the PGN. You can also download all the videos. We do have a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked. So you just send me an email. Matt, didn't love the course. It's not for me. I'll just go in and refund you. I pretty much always get to it within 24 hours. Customer support. I'm here to answer any of your questions. So whether it's via email, there's places in the courses to ask questions. Each course has a discussion section. You can ask a question and everyone can see your question and my answer. Or you can ask in our Discord server. And there's a message board within the course players as well. Lifetime access. So any course you purchase, you get lifetime access to that course. Meaning, if I make tweaks to the course, add bonus content, you get access to all of that once you purchase the course. Also, we have a private Discord community for course owners. Chess Simple is in there. A lot of people I see in our chat are already in the Discord server. And some of you are lifetime access members. Like Chess Simple is saying, it's really a steal to get the lifetime access. Yeah, and Ian is saying, love the London course, very accessible. Sharon wants a Scandinavian course. It might come down the line if enough people ask for it. What our 3,000 plus course members think? I ran the stats, checked all the reviews. The average review is 4.91 stars with 91 reviews for the courses. Oh yeah, Ian's saying also lifetime. This is something where I wish we had more reviews, but 91 reviews is still pretty good. And I think the 4.91 stars really shows that people are happy with the courses. And last month, we only had one return total. And we had our best-selling month ever with courses, with only one return. So I think so far people are pretty happy about the courses, and I just want to keep growing the ChessGoals brand and getting more people aware of ChessGoals and helping more students down the line. If you join with lifetime access, this is the group that really has kept ChessGoals going financially. It allows us to spend money on helping support other course creators, advertising our courses, and so on. This lifetime member group just reached 100 members last month. We did have the Black Friday sale, which was 50% off. And that's just amazing to me that 100 people have said we support ChessGoals with a lifetime access membership. So thank you guys for all of you that are lifetime access members. Any questions in the chat? I always have trouble promoting things, but it is something where I want you guys to know about the courses. And we do have this 50% off code. So what you do is you go in, link in the description. You can pick any course, any bundle. And then before you actually make the purchase, there's a spot where it says use coupon code. You just put in that code SNOW and you'll see the price drop in half. Yeah, thanks, Ian. It's pretty crazy. 100 lifetime access. So any questions in the chat about the deal, the promotion, general chess questions, things you want to see in future live streams? Anything is fair game before we wrap up. And we will do a poll on YouTube, and I'll advertise that on the email list as well for what you guys want to see on the next live stream class. I really like this idea of picking things that you guys want to learn about. And if you didn't sign up for today's live stream via the Google form, there's a link in the description for that too. That'll get you emails about all the live streams. So it's like a special live stream mailing list. You'll get additional emails when we're about to go live, and after the live streams, you'll get a link to the courses, or to the classes, I should say. Yeah, thanks, Ian. Yeah, thanks, Thomas, for coming and voicing your opinions. Matt saying anything you can do to help a geezer with visualization. It's a great question, Matt. I think visualization is best trained when you don't move the pieces. So anytime you're trying to work on a puzzle or solve a position, or even if you're tempted to analyze with the engine, always try to keep the pieces still and think about all the moves in your head. So for these classes, a lot of times I will move the pieces along just to make it easier to follow and not draw a million arrows. But try to think about the moves in your head without moving the pieces. And even if you're looking at a stockfish solution, you can look down the line of all the stockfish moves and you can just try to visualize each move without touching a piece. That's another way to practice visualization. Thanks, Ethan. You too. I'll probably see you on Tuesday or pretty soon. Thanks, Sharon, for coming. Cody is saying, thanks for the class. Still need to dive into my purchased courses. From what I've seen so far, they're excellent. That's awesome, Cody. And the nice thing about the courses, too, is you can just do them at your own pace. You can access them on any device. So a mobile phone, tablet, computer, you can download them. You don't even have to be on the internet. Thanks for coming, Dennis. Dave is saying for under 1,000 player playing black against e4, is Caro-Kann the ChessGoals recommendation or the French? Dave, I think those are both great options. Personally, I'm probably a little bit biased towards the Caro-Kann because that's what I've played quite a bit in terms of, not only recently while working with ChessGoals, but as a junior player as well. But I think our French course is outstanding as well. So really what you can do is you can go check out each course. They each have a preview, see which one you like. But currently the Caro-Kann course does have additional middle game and tactics course as well. And we have a lot more bonus content on the Caro. But both courses are really good. The Caro-Kann course also has a free quick start course. And the French will have a free quick start course coming up in a couple months. So that's like a 10-line overview where each line sort of lines up with one of the chapters from the main course, and it's free. Are these online classes always on Sunday mornings? Yeah, so if you're not on our email list, that's the best way to find out about the classes. So what you can do is if you sign up on courses.chessgoals.com, just make an account there. That'll get you on our email list. Or there's a link in the description to sign up for live classes. It's a Google form. And I will send you emails whenever we have live classes. But we don't do every Sunday. We tend to do Sundays at 10 a.m. with a Saturday 10 a.m. as another option. And it's usually about one every 3-4 weeks. I'm not sure if we'll do another one in December yet or not. If we do, it'd probably be on, let me check the calendar, December 23rd. Saturday the 23rd is a potential for another live stream. Matt says, by the way, my wife says hi. She doesn't play chess, but likes your voice. Thanks, Matt's wife. It was like a running joke for a while. I get a lot of voice comments. At first, I didn't like them, but then after a while, I learned to just realize the uniqueness of my voice. Thanks, Dave, for coming. Thanks, Chess Simple, for coming. These are always a lot of fun. I think we almost touched 40 viewers at one point. Yeah, we had 39 viewers. This was good. I think our live streams are gaining a little bit of traction. Sharon is saying maybe you should do voice acting. I don't know. I think like 2 hours of talking even, and then my voice is already sore. I'm not used to it. I don't know how how like Hikaru does it and some of those Twitch streamers where they live stream for like 8 hours straight. I would never be able to do it. All right, I think we'll wrap up there. Doesn't look like we have any other questions. Thanks again, everybody, for watching. Remember, the coupon code is SNOW, SNOW. If you want to get 50% off any ChessGoals courses or bundles. Cody has one more question. Did you take the photos in the background or are they paintings? They are paintings that we ordered online though. So I think they're like prints of paintings. So we didn't take those photos, but I do kind of like them. All right. Thanks everybody. Stay tuned. There will be an email if you're on the Google form list with a link to this class if you want to revisit things later. We will have a YouTube poll coming out for the next class, so stay tuned for that. Let me know if you're free December 23rd. It's 2 days before Christmas, but if you're free the 23rd at 10 a.m. U.S. Central Time, let me know, because if enough people are ready to attend or able to attend, I think we'll try to sneak in another one this month yet. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.